Today's video is going to be different than what I expected it to be this week, just because I was going to try and read the last book in the Blood and Ash series, and then I just didn't feel like torturing myself like that for an entire week. So I do have some books here that I did not get to include in my past videos, like the best and worst books of 2022. I've yet to put out a video about all the books that I am going to read, and so that's going to be another video. This week I wanted to talk about these books because I just finished them. I am absolutely just amazed by how much these books can lift you completely up out of a reading slump. And I think that you will enjoy every single one of these books that I'm about to talk to you about. So the first book that I'm going to talk to you about today is called Crimson Peak, and it was originally a screenplay written by Guillermo del Toro, and it was originally a movie first. It quickly became one of my most favorite movies because gothic horror romance is my actual lifeline. I want to say that I got this towards the middle or the beginning of December, possibly, and I just didn't get to include it in a video yet. Crimson Peak is also set towards the turn of the century, about 1899. This is a novelization of the film, and so everything from the film is it's written exactly like it is here, except for we get so much of Edith's point of view, how Edith is feeling. I love Edith as a character. You get to know her way better in this novel. I can't say that the novel is more atmospheric than the film. I can't say that the film is more atmospheric than the novel. To be quite honest with you, I would get anything that Guillermo del Toro puts out because he's just amazing. The main character is Edith, and she wants to be a writer, but then her father passes away and she marries this guy right here, Thomas Sharp. Well, Thomas has a sister named Lucille, and they're a pretty oddball pair of siblings. Edith marries Thomas and she goes over to England where his estate is. Amalgamation of absolutely horrendous and thrilling and suspenseful things do take place. She figures out the secrets of this new place that she's in, the dangers. Reading this book feels like putting on a glove that fits your hand just perfectly. Next book that I'm going to talk to you about is Beauty by Sheri S. Tepper. I just made a Goodwill video haul, and this was one of the books that I got. I don't want to say that I had any expectations going into it. However, any expectations that I could have had were just absolutely blown out of the water. I had absolutely no idea how full this book was of the fairy tales that we all know and already love. Sheri Tepper took the fairy tales and transformed them into a story that made me cry. It made me hate a lot of the characters. It felt like backstabbing sometimes, but also rightly feminine and also a truth that just needed to be spoken. A lot of people on Goodreads were saying that it was way too preachy, way too feminist. I don't think that. I think that everything that she said in here was so perfect. Yes, there were characters that were like placeholders for things that she wanted to say and needed to say. Our main character's name is Beauty. Beauty is the daughter of a duke who, as you can guess it, is supposed to fall under a sleeping coma spell, death thing, for like 100 years or so. However, it's not her that gets cursed, it is her half-sister who looks just like her apparently, but it's actually not even her. It's the entirety of Westfair. The dukedom that they live at, it's that place that's cursed, but there's time travel in this. It's so science fiction. I did not see that coming. It didn't say anything about that on the back. I had no clue what I was walking into reading this book. I knew it was fantasy, but the sci-fi and time travel just really, oh my gosh, it was the cherry on top. It deals with strange entanglement, which was okay, but it also has to do with the end of the world. And so with the time traveling, Beauty gets sent to somewhere in the 22nd century. No forest, no animals, no food. There is absolutely nothing left because humans used it all up. There is just absolutely no magic. Breaks away from the standard, Disney fairy tale. Way more close to the Grimm's fairy tales because it can be gruesome, but it's blunt and honest. And as much as it does rely on fantasy and magical elements, it also has so much realism put into it. And I thought that this was a 5-star book. My phone turned off for the entire rest of the time that I was talking. So the third book that I'm going to be talking to you about today, Mirror Lake. It is the third installment in the entire Shady Hollow series. And in this one, we follow along with Vera Vixen, who is the fox, also a reporter. In this one, she tries to solve the murder of a rat who still seems to be alive. After I read it, I noticed a pattern in the entire series because there is a template that is followed in all three, actually 4 books that are in the entire series. This one is set in autumn. The template does get to be a little bit predictable. However, I don't see how that is a problem with this series in particular because you can read them, any of them, as standalones without having to read the ones prior or after for it all to make sense. It is incredibly cute and wholesome, but also murderous. It's exactly what you would want when you sit down to read a cozy murder mystery. I think that the first book, Shady Hollow, is the one that I do have to say that I love the most, just because it's the first one that I was exposed to. The next book that I read is called Evergreen Chase. It is the short story in the Shady Hollow series universe. I read it around Christmas time, and you cannot go wrong reading it around Christmas time. That's exactly what it's for. Entirely atmospheric, really mood setting, and it sets the season. It makes it all so festive. In this short story, the tree that the town is going to put in the center of town square has been stolen, and it takes a really long time for them to evolve these trees to the point where they are able to be harvested and used, dedicated to being raised like 20-30 years at a time, and then they get used. So it's like a pretty even cycle of Christmas trees that are being used and raised. Essentially, the tree goes missing and Vera Vixen has to find it. The next book that I want to talk about is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. In France, 1714, we follow along with Addie Larue, who is being pushed and pulled into choices and life decisions that she doesn't feel like she's being able to make by herself. They're not organic decisions. And so she makes a pact with this dark force who is named Luce, which I don't actually think he's that much of a bad guy. He's just doing his dark cosmic job, which is to collect the souls who are willing to give them up for a certain promise, for a certain pact. Addie wants to be left alone. She wants to be able to do everything by herself. She wants to be completely independent, which I mean, pretty much what 14, 15-year-old doesn't. And through the span of centuries, we follow along with the hardships and the triumphs that Addie has to go through, because in the pact that she made, she did not use her wording properly. She didn't use the right words. And so what Luce did, instead of making her really independent, he made her independent in the way that no one will ever remember her. No one can remember her name, no one can remember her face, all except for in modern time, in 2000 and something, 2016 I believe, she comes across a fellow named Henry. Henry takes care of a bookstore, and he also has a dark secret. Whenever the chapters started focusing on Henry alone, I really genuinely felt like it could have been left out, and that's why I gave it 4.8 stars instead of the full 5. Everything could have still been put through Addie's perspective, and we still would have understood everything that was happening. I loved Addie's first person point of view because I loved her character. The narrative distance was so close. Next and last book that I want to talk to you about today is called Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Ernshaw. The book starts right after Jack and Sally are married, and now Sally is the Pumpkin Queen, and of course she is flooded with self-doubt because she's just a rag doll. How could she be a queen like a magnificent other one in all the other realms? So one night Sally runs away from the town because she is being overwhelmed by everyone trying to change her and mold her into a queen that she doesn't really think she would suit as. She just wants to be herself. She just wants everything to be normal like it was before. Why does everything have to suddenly change into a big kerfuffle as soon as she's announced queen? She runs to the grove where all the realm trees are, and then she finds one way off in the distance that is bound up with vines and such, and so she tears down the vines, notices that on the front of it there's a crescent moon, a blue crescent moon. We also get to explore all the other realms, which we did not really get to do in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Whenever Sally opens the door, she forgets to close it. Whenever she runs back to Halloween Town, like, oh, I bet everyone is wondering where I am. And it turns out, hey, no one knows where you are because everybody is asleep. The antagonist in this novel is called the Sandman. It is up to Sally, who is the only one left awake for some reason, to figure out how to stop the Sandman, keep him from having everyone asleep in her world, but also in the human world. Sally's big plight in this book is to find the confidence and the self-esteem and the intestinal fortitude that she needs to be able to stop the Sandman and revert things back to normal. It is an amazing sequel, stays in character with the voice and the tone and everything that has to do with the realm of The Nightmare Before Christmas. And so those are all the books that I wanted to wrap up today. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone that has recently subscribed and been watching my videos, I will see you in the next video. Bye.